Hello, when we talk about the mountain, what are the few things that come to our mind? They are strong, they are rough, they are beautiful, they are covered with the trees or ice. They are the creations which was created at its best, that too by the nature. The peak of the mountain is called a summit. So when a mountaineer starts to climb difficulties to the mountain, he faces a lot of difficulties, and it is not only physical difficulties but also mental difficulties also. If there is a mountain outside, there is a mountain inside us also. That is the mountain of fear, anxiety, nervousness, pessimism, negativity. So, when we have to do any task, you have to first climb the mountain which is inside you. In other words, you have to overcome our fears, nervousness, negativity, etc. Only then you can reach summit of a mountain. This is exactly what the chapter is about, the summit within, which we are going to study. The writer H.P.S. Ahluwalia explained how the mountain Everest attracted towards him, explains what a mountaineer feels while climbing and also after reaching when he comes down. What are their emotions when he was up at the Everest? When he reached at the summit and looked all around him. How reaching top of the summit changed the man. Whether that summit is outside or it is inside, it does not matter. Let us see about the author, that is H.P.S. Ahluwalia. H.P.S. Ahluwalia is known as Major Haripal Singh Ahluwalia. He was born on 6th November 1936 in Sialkot, Pakistan. He is a mountaineer, author, social worker, retired Indian Army officer. His main contribution to the field of adventure, sports, environment, disability and social work. He has received many awards like Padma Bhushan, Arjuna Award, National Award for the best work done in the field of disability, Tenzing Norgay National Adventure Award on August 29, 2009. He has written many books. In some of the books are like I Higher Than Everest, Beyond the Himalayas, Everest Within You. Before going to the lesson, let's watch a small video.
When I came out, I saw at 6 o'clock in the morning, saw that there was a huge avalanche and everything was covered. That camp was totally, you couldn't even see. And that devastated us a lot. Because we were not worried about the tent or anything else, only the oxygen cylinder. About 19-20 cylinders were buried. So nobody could go up. So then the leader had a hard choice to make. He said that, look, it is not possible and we need to wind up the camp now. But then, kept on digging for 2 hours, couldn't get anything. Then suddenly my axe hit on a cylinder, ting, that sound came. That was I knew it was an oxygen cylinder. So then Phudorji was lined up with me and we together stepped on the summit. It was around minus 30 degrees at that time. But there's a job to be done when you're on the summit. Certain photographs you have to take from north, south, etc. Because on Everest, if I don't take the pictures, people can say you have not done. We had a movie camera, Pilot Bullocks. It stopped working 50 feet below the summit. And that again annoyed us. So we had to keep it 50 feet down. Pudorji with me, he said, throw it down in the Chinese side, let the Chinese have it. We were feeling hungry, so वो थोड़ा गड्ढा किया, उसके नीचे चॉकलेट निकल गया, टिप के ऊपर थोड़ा वो किया, and there was a packet of chocolate. So we all sort of shared with that. I mean, just to put it, it's humility. You know, you are very humbled by looking at the entire universe, because fortunately that day the weather was to be very bad. So we said to hell with it, we will go. But the weather was beautiful, bright weather. This is the first time we thought the weather gods had gone wrong. So it was beautiful, so we could take beautiful pictures. And suddenly the Pudorji brought a lovely cup of coffee for me. I said, hey, where is this from? He said, no, I carried it in my thermos. So this is a present from me. So
Thanks for watching the video. Now let's read the lesson. All of the emotions which surged through me as I stood on the summit of Everest, looking over miles of panorama below us. The dominant one, I think, was humility. The physical in me seemed to say, thank God, it's all over. However, instead of being jubilant, there was a tinge of sadness. Was it because I had already done the ultimate in climbing and there would be nothing higher to climb and all roads hereafter would lead down? By climbing the summit of Everest, you are overwhelmed by a deep sense of joy and thankfulness. It is a joy which lasts a lifetime. The experience changes you completely. The man who has been to the mountains is never the same again. As I look back at life after climbing Everest, I cannot help remarking about the other summit. The summit of the mind, no less formidable and no easier to climb. Even when getting down from the summit, once the physical exhaustion had gone, I began asking myself the question why I had climbed Everest. Why did the act of reaching the summit have such a hold on my imagination? It was already a thing of the past, something done yesterday. With every passing day, it would become more remote. And then what would remain? Would my memories fade slowly away? All these thoughts led me to question myself as to why people climb mountains. It is not easy to answer the question. The simplest answer would be, as others have said, because it is there. It presents great difficulties. Man takes delight in overcoming obstacles. The obstacles in climbing a mountain are physical. A climb to a summit means endurance, persistence, and willpower. The demonstration of these physical qualities is no doubt exhilarating as it was for me also. Now, explanation, children. Now, author speaks about the Everest, peak of the Everest, that is at the summit of the Everest. As he stood there, he looked around him. There are various emotions inside him, but the most dominant one was his humility. He feels humble when he understands that he already crossed the difficulty remarks and he already at the top of the world. And then his physical body starts to get exhausted, and then he said, thank God, it's over. Now, at this point of time, he said himself that he should be very happy. But he was not. There was a mixture of emotions inside him. They were happiness and sadness. There was happiness because he had climbed or overcome the mountain by facing all the difficulties and reaching the peak of the mountain. There was sadness because he felt thereafter point there was only going down. There is no climbing up. He expresses that one climbs the Everest, that experience changes that person completely. He is physically, joyfully, he is thankful to the God and to the universe. But just as there is a summit outside, there is a summit inside also, which cannot be exhausted or excused, and everyone has to climb that mountain. Then he asked himself why he decided first to climb the Everest. Everest being the most difficult mountain and the highest mountain in the world, can pose most difficulties, and then man take delightful overcoming all the challenges and difficulties. He has that willpower and endurance and persistence which will keep him going to the top. His answer to this question can be a big, personal, and may differ from individual to individual. But what the author answer is, we can see in the next para. I have a more personal answer to the question. From my childhood, I have been attracted by mountains. I have been miserable, lost when away from mountains. In the plains, mountains are the nature at its best. Their beauty and the majesty pose a great challenge. And like many, I believe that mountains are a means of commune with God. Once having granted this, the question remains, why Everest? Because it is the highest, the mightiest, and that defied many previous attempts. It takes the last ounce of one's energy. It is a brutal struggle with rock and ice. Once taken up, it cannot be given up halfway, even when one's life is at stake. The passage back is as difficult as the passage onwards. And then, when the summit is climbed, there is the exhilaration, the joy of having done something, the sense of a battle fought and won. There is a feeling of victory and the happiness. Glimpsing a peak in the distance, I get transported to another world. I experience a change within myself, which can only be called mystical. By its beauty, aloofness, might, ruggedness, and the difficulties encountered on the way, the peak draws me to it, as Everest did. It is the challenge that it is difficult to resist. Looking back, I find that I have not yet fully explained why I climbed Everest. It is like answering a question, why you breathe. Why do you help your neighbor? Why do you want to do good acts? There is no final answer possible. And then there is the fact that Everest is not just a physical climb. The man who has been to the mountain top becomes conscious in the spatial manner of his own smallness in this large universe. The physical conquest of a mountain is the only part of the achievement. There is more than it. It is followed by a sense of fulfillment. There is the satisfaction of a deep urge to rise above one's surrounding. It is the eternal love of adventure in man. The experience is not merely physical, it is emotional, it is spiritual. Now explanation, children. See, the author from his childhood days was always attracted to the mountains, and he used to miss mountain whenever he was in that place. And that's the reason why he wanted to climb the most beautiful mountain in the world. Of course, it was not easy for him. There were bounds in his life and was at the risk. There were places which were triggering, exhausting to climb. Yet he did that because after reaching the summit of the mightiest mountain, there was a feeling of satisfaction inside him. A feeling of joy inside him, the experience that he had reaching at the top, climbing and descending the mountain had changed him completely. Climbing a mountain is not just physical climb. When a man reaches the summit of a mountain, he can observe a smallness in this vast universe. And then at the point of time, this man realizes how small he is. He is just a small dot in this big universe. The might had big egos. He might had wealth, prosperity. He might be considering himself the luckiest person in the world. But when it comes to the nature, he is just a small dot. And it is for the love of adventure that man does all this. The author also says the experience of reaching the summit or climbing the Everest is not merely physical. It would be emotional and spiritual. That's all for this session. In the next video, I'll say how did the author climb the mountain and what did he do to reach the summit. Till then, take care of yourself, be healthy and happy.